Hey everyone, welcome back. It is Wednesday, so welcome to Gardening with Brother Nature. Once again, we are back in the greenhouse. Last video was inside my apartment. Today I'm back in the greenhouse to see what's going on inside the greenhouse and talk to you about a few things. So we're gonna look at the plants I'm growing. Um, Look at the sunflower, the corn, the amaranth. We'll talk about the Three Sisters gardening, and we'll look at some edible flowers. But first edible flower we're gonna actually look at is called nasturtium, which is right here. All right. So this whole plant, this flower is edible, and it has like a spicy radish taste to it. So let's see what happens. Slightly sweet, but there's some really good eats right there. Imagine having that in your salad. It'd be so good. Even with, remember this plant right here? The red top lamb's quarter. This whole plant right here is edible. The leaves on here are edible. Then you have the red amaranth. That whole plant is edible. I mean, there's carrots growing inside this little bed right here. Lots of great things to eat. So let's talk about Three Sisters. Three Sisters gardening. So Three Sisters gardening, how I know about them is from my family background. We are First Nations and Black mix. We are called the Ojibwa of Anjoudan. We are from southwestern Ontario. We are the ones that brought in the runaway slaves back in the maybe mid 1800s. So I've always that's just who we are. That's all I can say. But when it comes to gardening, I've always learned all my farming stuff from my grandfather. He taught me everything I know, and some stuff from my father as well. Give props where props is due. When it comes to certain native plants, I learned a lot from my grandfather, like the Three Sisters, corn, beans, and squash. But we also know that there's different versions of the Three Sisters. So there's corn, beans, and squash. There's also sunflower beans and squash, and there's also sunroot beans and squash. For those of you who do not know what sunroot is called Jerusalem artichoke. I don't know why. It's not from Jerusalem. It's not an artichoke. It comes from the Americas, and it's part of the sunflower family. There you have it. So when we're doing the corn, beans, and squash, actually, I'm going to sit you guys down for a quick minute over here. I'm going to show you a few things. Corn, beans, and squash. So you have sister corn, right? That's sister corn. Sister corn gets nice and tall. Sister corn is a heavy feeder. She loves a lot of nitrogen, so she needs that to eat. If she's planted by herself, you're going to have to supply some sort of nitrogen for her. But First Nations have companion planting. So they're doing like the corn, beans, and squash. Beans are nitrogen fixators. What Sister Bean will do, she will open her leaves up. She'll start capturing nitrogen from the air and storing it down to the roots, called nitrogen nodules. They will be down by the roots by the corn. You plant her by the corn. Sister Bean actually needs a trellis to grow up, right? It's a pole bean. It's not a bush bean. So if it's a bush bean, she'll stay at the bottom. A pole bean needs something to grow up. So that's when she's next to sister corn. As sister corn is growing nice and tall, sister bean plant around her. Well, what's going to happen? As sister bean starts to grow, she'll start wrapping herself around sister corn as a trellis. At the same time, what she's doing is she's has her leaves open. Sister bean has her leaves open. She's pulling all the nitrogen from the air and storing it down to near the roots for the sister corn. That means sister corn is going to get nice and big. So now you have these two together by themselves. Now you have raccoons and rabbits and squirrels coming to try to eat the bottom of the plants or eat the leaves because they're hungry. That's where Sister Squash comes in. Sister Squash is a warrior sister. What she does, she will spread out across the whole ground. She has great big leaves that cover wherever the ground is. What's going to happen there is that she keeps the soil nice and cool, so less weeds. Also, on her stem, if her leaves, this is her leaf, on her stem, she has little spikes on her stem, so that when the raccoons, the rabbits, the rodents of all sorts come in, they're coming in to try to eat, and they'll step on one of the spikes, and they'll hurt the bottom of their hands. Not their hands, but their paws. The reason why is because the bottom of their paws is fleshy. There's no fur on them. So that's how they work together. You can do the same thing with sunflowers, but when you're doing sunflowers, we will plant sunflowers in our soil if we think the soil is contaminated. Sunflowers help clean your soil out for you. When it comes to sunroot, sunchoke, We will plant that in our gardens if we think our soil is too compact. Because what Sister Sunroot will do, she will uncompact that soil and she'll start spreading out. That's the only thing about Sister Sunroot. She will spread out and take over majority parts of your garden. Okay? So those are your three sisters. You can also add a fourth sister. There's been a fourth sister from, I know, back home. A fourth sister would have been black eyed peas at Vine. That'll go around as well. All right? So let's look at other things we're growing inside here. Always remember, keep a journal, a growing journal. I've already shown you what the corn looks like, nice and big. You can imagine that plant's coming from little seeds like this. All right? Sunflowers, look at the sunflowers, the seeds it comes from. This sunflower is probably going to get about maybe 10 feet tall. This corn, maybe about 8 feet tall. Now the amaranth coming from small seeds like that, if you can see those small seeds, to plants like this plant's going to get about 7 feet tall. Make sure you have your amaranth, you're going to plant it out, separate them, plant them where they need to be. All right? And you also see the garden, what I have over here. Let me show you. If you look behind me, the bag back there, that bag says, "If you ate today, thank a farmer." It's the truth. So look at the other plants we have growing over here. There's an ancient watermelon, Hopi yellow watermelon. I have an orange watermelon inside there. There's broccoli. There's Lakota squash, winter pie squash, Seminole squash. I have some of our ancient squashes inside of here as well, a crookneck squash. Look at all those plant babies. Look at them all ready to go outside. So let's talk about going outside right quick. So if you're going to harden off your plants, you can do an easy, lazy way of hardening off. Find a day that it's going to be overcast and rain maybe for 3 or 4 days. On that first day, take your plants out, put them in the ground. Even if it's raining, put them in the ground and just let them harden up that way. It's a lazy way of doing it, so taking a whole week, but it helps out. I will say one thing, you may lose maybe a few percentage of your crops, but that's fine. You can always reseed later. All right, that's hardening off. And for sunflowers, corn, beans, squash, tomatoes, it's too cold for them to be outside as of yet. I would say wait another 2 weeks or check your local listings for when the last frost date is. I know up here in the Toronto area, they're talking about maybe snow this weekend. So yikes, snow. But hey, it happens. For people who want to get seeds from radishes or beets or carrots, allow that plant to go to flower, then allow it to go to seed. And that's the only way I know how you can get seeds or plant other plants from that. Unless you can try to do the scrap garden, which I can show you on one video pretty soon. All I can say now, my friends, my greenhouse, she's popping. And I want to say thank you for tuning in weekly to Gardening with Brother Nature. We're going to kick it up a notch. Now it's nice outside. Be outside, showing how to do stuff inside your garden. And as I always say, take this time to be in nature. All right, my friends. Till next time. Peace.